So, Marty, when you're talking to people who are getting married again, what do you tell them so that they don't do the same thing over again that messed up their marriage the first time?
It's a really good question. I think awareness is really important. You know, knowing what contributed to the difficulties in the previous marriage, if particularly, well, whether there's a divorce or, you know, you lost a spouse to death, usually there are high points and there are low points, and knowing what contributed to the difficulties is really important. Knowing how you contributed to the difficulties is important. Not just, you know, the things that we like point the finger and blame our spouse for, but how did I contribute and where are my growth areas? And sometimes giving your fiancé, if you're not married yet, your husband or your wife, if you already are, permission to gently tell you what it is that you do that makes it difficult maybe to resolve conflict. You know, I probably am going to sound like a broken record, but sometimes in working with a therapist, they can actually watch a couple unpack a point of dispute, a disagreement, and just kind of hold up to the light or hold the mirror in front of them with regard to, have you realized that when you are arguing with your husband or your wife, you've got your finger in their face? That's a behavior that really doesn't encourage conflict resolution. Sure. So those kinds of things can be very helpful. Being mindful that with a difficult situation, what is the goal? You know, what is our goal? Is it strength as a family? Is it to resolve conflict? Is it to be right? You know, and oh wow.
Do you sometimes see that it comes back to their parents?
Absolutely.
I know at one time Ed and I were arguing about something and he left the house and I just fell apart because my dad had left at a young age. And I thought, well, that was it. The marriage is over.
Yep. I think, and some therapists will actually encourage a family, and you don't need a therapist to do this, but to go through your family history together and to know what you each bring into that marriage from your families of origin. You know, what did I learn from my mom and dad about how to argue or not argue? Because having a disagreement in and of itself is not a bad thing, it's not a wrong thing. It's what we do when we get the fire underneath us, or when we feel like we're not being heard. How do we respond to either negotiate that conflict to a resolution, or how do we make it blow up, you know?
I love that line. Fire underneath us, because that is so true.
Yes,
it doesn't take much to start an explosion.
No, it doesn't.
Right.
But there are a lot of things that we can look at in our history and in our current here and now that can be modified, behaviors we can change in ourselves that help us really, you know, put that fire out, and even when we aren't in agreement, to negotiate compromise in a healthy way.